What's going on, guys? BSG Trek Fan 88 here. I found out about 5 minutes ago that somebody who I never met, somebody who probably anybody in my family has ever met, um, passed away, and that would be William Guarnere. Now, if you are familiar with the epic, and in my opinion, even better than From the Earth to the Moon, which is near and dear to my heart, Band of Brothers, which came out back in 2000. I was in 5th grade, 2000, 2001, 2002. Over 10 years, which makes me feel really old. William Guarnere was a member of Easy Company. He was not the most prominent character or person in the miniseries, but he was there. And, you know, you can ask friends of mine. He was my favorite. I say character. I know it's based on a real person, but obviously when it's in a miniseries or a movie or a TV show, it's not 100%. So I will say character. It's nothing to do with degrading or anything like that. Okay. William Guarnere was born on April 28th, 1923, and he passed away yesterday. He passed away. He was 90 years old. And all I can say is that the man, well, read the books, watch the miniseries. It's sad. It's not necessarily sad because this particular individual passed away. I know that people pass away all the time, especially, you know, people who fought and were injured and participated in World War II. But it brings up something that I was actually thinking about the other day. You know, my birthday is coming up this Saturday. I'm going to be turning 26, so I'm no longer going to be a quarter of a century old. I'm going to be 26. And I'm going to be around, hopefully, to see all of these great people leave this earth. You know, I'm a big Terminator fan. There will be one day when I wake up or I come home from work and Arnold Schwarzenegger will be dead. But he's an actor, okay? As far as I'm concerned, the men and women who participated in World War II, they're called the greatest generation. And why is that? They're called the greatest generation because they literally had nothing and gave everything of themselves. Whether it was somebody who was in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, Army Air Corps. It was not the Air Force back then. Whether you were a civilian working, man or woman, working to produce arms, you know, or, you know, do paperwork, or, you know, if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, it has in my opinion, it's horrible in the sense that it's like, wow, you don't realize this. But in the opening scene when all the women typists are typing the letters that the commanding officer or the sergeant, whoever is the highest ranking officer or enlisted personnel, you know, writes the letter saying, you know, dear madam, your son passed away or he died in battle or whatever. Really hammers home different sides and aspects of the war that you really don't think about, because especially these days, and I'll be honest, I was part of the culture. You know, I play video games. My favorite video game of all time is Medal of Honor, which that came out back in '98. I honestly forget right now. Back when, you know, Saving Private Ryan came out, The Thin Red Line, World War II, and World War II themed video games and TV and movies were very prominent. Nowadays, it's kind of modern military. You know, I'm part of that generation that enjoys playing those games, but it's not just about that. It's about the men and women who served. And as I said before, they're called the greatest generation because if you think about it, you know, the U.S. was involved early on in the war, 38, 39, but we really started to participate, obviously, after Pearl Harbor, which is December 7th, 1941. What date is that close to? It's close to the Great Depression. You know, even though the Great Depression was kind of tapering off by the time we entered the war fully, a lot of people who served had nothing. You know, maybe they were bankrupt, maybe they didn't have much money, but they volunteered, they joined, um, and they did their duty. And as much as I respect every armed service personnel out there today, um, you guys have it a lot easier. And I'm not saying it's easy. I was a sea cadet for 8 years. I know what military life is like more so than most people. It's not easy. It's not all fun and games. There are supply shortages. There are issues with, command, whatever. That's not what this video is about. Um, but the conditions that the war was fought in, where the war was fought in. I mean, look at the Battle of the Bulge. It's 10 degrees outside or colder, and some troops didn't even have socks. And troops these days, some troops, not all, very few, whatever, they complain if they get a bad MRE or if their MRE doesn't have a hot pocket, and that's the worst part of their day. And as I said before, it's not always like that. There are horrible things these days. There are horrible conditions. We're the richest country in the world, and we can't even give our troops armored Humvees. But anyway, William Guarnere has passed away. Again, he was 90 years old, and I know him primarily from Band of Brothers and the book. And it's just one of those things where, I'm on Facebook, I'm watching reruns of VR, and I get the message popping up on my phone that says, blah, 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 William Wild Bill Guarnere, famed for being portrayed in the Band of Brothers, passed away. And I was like, wow, that's, another great person has passed away. And this kind of ties back to what I was talking about before, where I'm going to be around where there'll be a news report, and it's going to say the last known soldier who fought in World War II, whether it's American, Japanese, German, Russian, Canadian, French, whatever. The last, or English, UK, the last surviving soldier who fought, okay? Maybe not a civilian contractor, maybe not somebody who was, not someone who was on the front, who wasn't on the front lines, but somebody who was overseas, or in other cases over continent, whatever, has passed away. There are literally no more members of the greatest generation that fought in World War II, and that's going to be a horrible day. So anyway, just a quick video here. What are your thoughts? Have you seen the show or the miniseries? Do you feel the same way I do? Comments, whatever you wish, leave them below. William Guarnere, rest easy, soldier.